So I called over the Atlantic Hotel. Mal Evans answered the phone. I said to Mal, what are you doing? He says, we're having a magical mystery tour and the boys would like you to join in, bring the family. So I took my then wife Pauline and my two girls, Sarah and Lisa, jumped in the Mini, drove over to the Atlantic Hotel and joined in the frivolities. A lot of it was taking place around the swimming pool. We had a busy day hanging around. Pictures taken alongside the bus. I was standing between Paul and John, I think. After the frivolities around the swimming pool and a hard day's filming, I approached the boys and said, well, I'm going back to the pub, the Taiwan Hale in Perranporth. Anybody care to join me? Paul and Ringo took me up on the invite, and we all drove over there. I'll never forget this. I walked in first, Paul right behind me, and Ringo in tow. Paul quashed any sort of hysteria that might have wound up the locals. Paul said, I'm the pub piano player. We're all going to sing song.
And we went down there and there was a lovely upright piano. And we just had a hysterical evening with drinks flowing pretty freely. And knowing the boys, Spencer was probably paid that bar bill. And Paul was just sitting at the piano playing old sing-along songs. I mean, it was a meet-up, hysterically funny evening. I was really annoying Paul, putting in my own clause into Yellow Submarine. And he wouldn't. And he was doing everything but. And every now and then he'd play the opening bars and then go into something else.
He sat down at the piano, proceeded to play pub songs like probably I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside, with a pint of beer on top of the piano, which was really forbidden. Well, it was all joined in. Ringo sat at the bar, proceeded to get sloshed. It was a wonderful experience, and I have to remind Paul next time I see him.
Well, my father took me over to meet them because I was too shy to talk to them in the hotel itself, so dragged me over there protesting, I think, at the time, because I was so embarrassed. And went in there, shook Paul McCartney's hand, which was like, oh my God. And he said, what are you laughing at? As I turned away, he's like, oh my goodness, I'll never wash his hand again.
Former tour manager Tony Bramwell takes up the story so far.
You have to remember this time that the Beatles actually didn't know who did what for them. They would call up Brian Epstein and ask for a barrel full of toenails, and the barrel full of toenails would appear the next day. They didn't know it went down the line to an office boy to get the toenails, and it went back until Brian said, here's your toenails.
So there was absolute chaos at the office. Talk about the blind leading the blind, because nobody really knew enough about the film business. The Beatles really didn't want to hire anybody in the way of professional film knowledgeable help, as it were, at all. They wanted to handle it all themselves. It was, as far as they were concerned, very good training in taking over their management.
So there they were off on a coach trip with a film crew, with all these extras. And they were just used to turning up at places, and all their accommodation accounts had all been sorted out. So they had no idea how this sort of stuff worked, because they were pop stars here.
We should have rolled up to this hotel about 8 o'clock. And because of delays with other things, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, so nobody could go and knock on the door because it looked as if it was all closed up. So we had one of the actors on the bus was a midget, so we decided to send him and knock on the door. But the door, there was a little window on the door, like up at the top of the door, so it was banging on the door, asking if we could come in, and this voice was going, who is it, who is it? But because we couldn't see him, we were hysterical in the bushes, but we finally got in.
Well, the Beatles were used to just being able to turn up at places, and they were set up for them. They probably weren't aware that they had to book film studios in advance. Twickenham was probably doing a Michael Caine movie, and Shepperton was probably doing a James Bond movie, so they just weren't available. And through sources, they found that there was this big hangar and earlier available in Kent. Things. We filmed in Kent before because we did the Strawberry Fields film just down the road from there, so we knew it wasn't that far away. You just never knew where you were in those days.
The Beatles headed up to West Malling Airfield, an American Air Force base in the Second World War. Filming commenced there on September the 19th, and again, great excitement built up amongst local fans. One such fan, Tim Baldock, has incredibly vivid memories of being caught up in the mystery tour hysteria.
I was great when the Beatles came here. They were, we were all 18, 20-year-olds, and of course the word Beatles in those days, absolutely fantastic. You know, these were our heroes. These were the music sensation of the 60s. Everybody in the area was absolutely amazed they were going to be in West Malling. So we all gathered, and we'd seen the buses going up and down all day. We'd seen John's psychedelic Rolls Royce. We'd seen George in his Mini. All the windows were smoked out, so we couldn't see them inside then. Funny thing was, my pal Stan Brown had the little tobacconist shop here in West Malling. Stan was a businessman, and obviously they'd approached him and asked if they could use his shop. But no way was Stan going to close and stop his customers coming in. He stuck out till 5:30, and then all of a sudden his shop was transferred into a big ticket office. There was placards everywhere, there were clapperboards. John was running about trying to borrow things to dress up in. He borrowed a hat, he borrowed a moustache, kept trying to stick the moustache on. He was going to be the ticket master. We'd sort of gathered the story that they were going to be buying tickets for this magical mystery tour, and Ringo was meant to be a customer. At the end of this, the shopkeeper, who was my old friend Stan Brown, they asked him if he wanted to be paid for the use of his shop, and he said, no, of course not, I'm only happy to be part of the famous four, and yeah, you can have my shop for nothing. With that, Paul went over to him, stuffed a £5 in his top pocket and said, go on, have a cigar with me.
Another big fan to get involved rushed up to the airfield with autograph books and pictures to sign. Jennifer Sharman tells of her own claim to fame.
They had converted the newsagents in the High Street, West Malling, into the ticket office for the Magical Mystery Tour. My grandfather was outside, and as John Lennon went into the shop, he saw my grandfather standing there and said, "Could I borrow your hat?" And took it off his head, and then in the shop they did the scene, and then when he came out he put it back on his head. And so that was how we, and I inherited it so to go with my collection, so that was how we managed to get the hat that was used in the scene.
Lot number 177. We come on now to the Beatles items. The hat worn by John Lennon in the film, a letter signed by all of the Beatles, photographs from the set, 2 paper stars from the balloon scene, newspaper cuttings, the Beatles book number 53, and the Magical Mystery Tour record. 37 I have now, looking for 38, with you at 37. These are one-off items. You'll never get another chance like this again. £3,700 I have, looking for 3,008, 39, 4,000. 39 now. In the room at 39, looking for 4,000 now. You're all done then at 3,900. Sold 3,900, 7 in the middle.
40 years on, I decided that my collection was so interesting that I would like to have it auctioned, and that's what's just happened. It's been a very exciting morning, and I'm so pleased that I've met people who are real fans and that have acquired some of the stuff that I had, concert programs and memorabilia from the film, and I'm just really pleased that it's gone to people who have been really interested.